Zach Seivers and Sergio Diaz are the supervising sound editors of Nomadland, Chloe Zhao's now Golden Globe winning film that looks to be a strong contender at the Oscars. I'm Tony Ruiz of Gold Derby. And gentlemen, and whoever wants to start can start with this, but I think when people think of sound, they tend to think of those big budget blockbusters with so much going on. Is there something in a certain way more challenging about doing a film that is, quote unquote, a little bit more quiet, a little more interior?
Yeah, honestly, from my perspective, that was our biggest challenge, to do everything very organic, and especially for this kind of genre. We were talking about during the whole process what kind of treatment we can bring to the desk to improve this piece of art. So from my perspective, as I said before all the time, it's everything is from compassion, no, and fragility, and that's why we start from that base, no. So we did a special treatment for those meaning of that words, and now recently I was wondering, maybe it's like a firefly, no, this kind of fragility and delicate, but with a very strong, powerful inner light. So that's the beauty of Nomadland.
Yeah, I don't think it's tough to say one kind of film is more challenging than the other, but I because there's so much complexity with huge action movies. There's so many people involved. Our team is very small. It was much more intimate, creative collaboration. But I do think that there is a nakedness to the work that you're very. It's very easy to hear the layers that are being orchestrated, and so we have to be very careful with those sounds so that hopefully your attention is not drawn to it. We're trying to be as minimalistic as possible and as authentic to the story as possible, and so it's that's the challenging part is picking the right sounds and balancing things so that as a viewer you don't pay any attention to it. It just feels like you're there and it sounds right.
Yeah, and one of the things that really just impresses me about this film is that it is so intimate. There's this almost this contrast between the emotional and in many ways the relationship intimacy of what's going on, and yet it's set against these vast vistas of the western part of the United States. So where do you begin? Where do you begin with your process when you're working with this type of environment?
From my perspective, I start working definitely with the production sound, all the wild tracks that Wolves did, and because I wasn't familiar with that region, so for me I did my own research, and I'm trying to find and collect the specific layers that contribute to the film. So we start collecting many layers for all the seasons, and put it together, and that was our main goal since the beginning. But the treatment should be very organic and authentic. That was our main goal, and let the flow and all the layers against the music and the dialogue tracks and everything, so make it a very organic way. So that's what I did with Zach, and then I passed all my layers and all that treatment, and he did an amazing job with the dialogue tracks and the mixing process as well.
And of course we both start the whole process with talking to Chloe and really getting a sense of what she's trying to achieve and what her goals are. And the cool thing with her being a director and a picture editor is that she's very, very aware of sound and how it can be used as a storytelling tool. And so from the very beginning, she was extremely clear and precise with where she wanted the sound to take the film. And because it's, you know, when we start, you're really just hearing the sound as it was recorded on location. And so there's a whole other dimension that we're able to add to the film. And you can take that in a million different directions. Any couple of sound designers or mixers could go in many different places. And so it's you know, you hope to be guided through that. And she was amazing at doing that.
Yeah, well, that was something that was certainly on my mind. Is I wonder, because you have so many all of these options together, and you, like you say, Zach, you can go in so many different directions. So where did Chloe say she wanted to take this? What kind of direction did she give you?
Well, she was very specific. Since the very beginning, she drawn me a map to go the entire journey during the whole year. So she was very specific about the density for the atmospheres and what happened with fern circumstances. So we need to be aware on that, because fern all the time was exposed to extreme weather inside that band. So the backgrounds and the white track and the wildlife and in every moment should be prominent, because of that. No, she was living in this kind of thin can, and for us was was a huge process to discover specific sounds to contribute that during the whole journey. I mean,
Yeah, Chloe gave us a literal roadmap of the journey, and then she also would talk us through what she wanted each scene to feel like, and you know, trying to convey what Fern's emotional journey is through the sound. And she just, you know, she was also really keen to be playful with the sound too, which was really, you know, you could easily take the sound too seriously. And I think that's one of the fun things about it, is that it's very playful and it has a sense of humor on its own. Some of the voices on the radios and the music choices that are happening in scene, and, you know, just little bits of sounds that are happening off camera, you know, not only convey the depth of the emotional journey for Fern, but they also, it gives it a little light and brevity, which is really one of the coolest parts, I think, of the sound design, and something that's totally a Chloe thing, you know.
Well, and one of the things that is fascinating to me is that I think that there's oftentimes a misconception. What do you guys think is the misconception about what sound in movies means? What do you think? Do people ever come up to you and ask you, like, you know, oh, are you, you know, sitting on the ground making strange noises into a microphone? I mean, what kind of questions do you guys often get asked as people who work in sound?
I mean, I think people just don't even know what, often they don't even think about it. It's not something that is really even considered until you say, oh, I do this. And they're like, oh, so you put the music in? And it's like, well, no, I mean, I mix the music. Okay, so what is it that you do exactly? And then you kind of start to pull the curtain back. And that's what's so cool about sound, is it really is this amazing magic trick that is really what immerses the audience in the film and pulls them in and makes them forget about all their troubles and, you know, forget that they're watching a movie. It's the thing that convinces your brain that what you're watching is reality. And so there's, you know, there's so many aspects to that that are fun to talk about. And then specifically, you know, I think Sergio probably has had this experience as a sound designer, is that we often make the sounds that are in the film using methods that are not literal, that don't necessarily add up in a way that you would think, oh, that's the sound that, you know, I don't, in the case of Nomadland, everything is really born out of very realistic choices. So I can't think of too many examples of that for Nomadland in particular, but often, you know, like a bone break could easily be a vegetable, like a celery snap. That's sort of like the old cliche of the level of creativity that we get to play with. So it's, you know, it's a really fun medium to work in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you are totally right. And for me, the sound design, it doesn't have any shape. You know, it's very important to put the finger on it, because we divided the concept for this particular film in three categories, and all of that, it doesn't have any shape properly, but because you don't need to hear it, what they do, what the sound designer do, or the mixer, or the editors, they just put the right sounds, the specific layers, and then harmoniously put all the universe of sound in our harmony. So there's a lot of techniques, and obviously you need the experience and the knowledge. Those are the main tools, and the most important is the creative intent with all of this universe of sound. So our idea was to evoke emotions with our treatment, and have an emotional connect with the audience.
I find it so fascinating. I love talking to people, particularly in the crafts, because you find new things that you're like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. How did each of you start off in this particular vocation?
If you can
Well, for
start.
me, I was making movies as a kid. You know, my dad had a camcorder, and any chance he'd let me borrow it and play with it, I was all over it. And so it was, you know, action figures and, you know, toys and telling stories. And so I was drawn to filmmaking and telling stories through film, not even actually realizing that sound, again, was a thing. And it wasn't even until I went to film school that I took my very first sound class in first year. And I mean, it just blew my mind, because I was like, oh, this is the reason why I love movies. I didn't even realize that it was its own thing. And so a lot of people who work in sound come to it through music. And for me, I started more so as a visual, you know, artist type of approach. And so it was shocking to me that you could just get into the weeds with all of this stuff and play with these things. And once you start learning the tricks, it's just extremely addictive. And, you know, it's a lot of fun to be able to play with these things and be deceptive and, you know, build the whole world up sonically to support the story.
Yeah, it's very addictive. Actually, I start from, because I during 80s, at the end of 80s, in the whole 90s, I was a DJ, and I play music during that period of my life. But I love the films, and I watch a lot of movies, and I realized that what can I combine my skills with the turntables and the music, with the sound, and during the years, I discovered this kind of techniques, and I bring that to me. That's very I am a very lucky guy. And my first movie was with Alejandro, 21 grams, and I discovered a new universe, and for me was totally incredible. And every day I'm start learning and learning and practice and discipline with discipline, and I love to what I do, and I feel all my love and passion. It's in every single film, and Nomadland, for me and for us, I'm sure it's a break point in our lives.
And it's, both of you have had, very long and successful careers. Sergio with an Oscar nomination for Roma, Zach, you won an Emmy for Gettysburg, and both of you have done such, a variety of work, documentaries, short films, all that. Are you particularly attracted to one specific genre, or is it the story of that you're trying to support? Is that what draws you in?
For me, it's the story. I don't want to to take a specific path, no, of genre. I love the cinema, I love the stories, and any specific genre, I don't have a particular to the, I don't know, sorry, how can I say it, but I love the cinema. And as a sound designer, as a recording mixer, I love to bring ideas and put everything to bring the project to the next level in sound wise. So that's my main goal in every single film that I'm been working on it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's all those things, and it's also the relationships. It's the people that you're working with, because you spend so much time with them, and you're really serving a director and trying to help them bring this creative idea to fruition at the very end of this process that they've been on. They've been on this long road from, development to pre-production to shooting the movie to then editing it, then coming up with the music and figuring that out, and then you're kind of at this like critical stage to where you're putting the final pieces together, and it can be really gratifying to do that with somebody that you actually like and that you want to spend time with. And Chloe is like, she's definitely that kind of person. You spend 5 minutes with her, and it's just like somebody that you want to pick their brain, and you want to be around someone like that just has so much to say, and wants to say it in such a unique way. And so I think that's just as important as the kind of story that you're working on, as to whether or not it's a documentary or a scripted film. For me, I've spent a lot of time doing documentaries, probably more so than scripted films. So this was a really special opportunity because it blends those two worlds. And it's like I was on kind of two parallel paths happening at the same time with my career, where I was doing a lot of documentaries and then a few indie films here and there when I could afford to do that. And I love both. And this is both. It's literally the independent film. It's the documentary. It's the scripted film at its absolute highest form of cinema. It's just an amazing opportunity. We're so lucky to have been able to take part in it.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, I could easily, speaking of picking your brains, I could easily pick both of your brains for quite some time. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Oscars, Screen Actors Guild, and stay tuned for more interviews throughout the season. Zach, Sergio, congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.